Now, as you can see, I've moved from the office where I've been teaching some theory and ideas and doing some demonstrations, and I moved over here to a table with Sheila. And so, Sheila, hello.
Hello.
And thank you for joining me today. And in this segment of this section, what I'm going to be doing with Sheila is actually going through a complete hypnosis session. But I'm going to be doing it with explanation as we go through it. And so this first video really focuses on pre-talk. A client first comes in, it's their very first session. They've never met a hypnotist before, most likely, and they've probably never met me before. And so before I do a formal hypnosis session with them, I'm going to spend time with them. Now in my office, I probably spend about 25 or 30 minutes with a person doing what might be called pre-talk before I ever get to the recliners and over to a formal hypnosis session. Because this is a training video, we're going to condense that down really quite a bit and probably take about 10 or 15 minutes for each segment. Now, I am going to, when this series is done, do a complete session from start to end without commentary, as if a client had come into the office, so that you have a clear concept of what a complete hypnosis session looks like, uninterrupted, without commentary. In today's video, I'm going to go through the pieces, essentially role-playing this with Sheila, but at the same time offering commentary. Now, there's something I want to point out, though, about this demonstration or this role-play. Sheila really does not know very much about hypnosis at all. I had some business partners, and we owned a bar and grill, and Sheila worked for us there before we closed the doors last year. And so I know Sheila from that context, and I needed somebody to demonstrate this process with me, so I called her up. And so even though we're role-playing this, we're actually doing real hypnosis. I'm going to be doing some induction videos with her later on. She was pretty excited about that, an opportunity to experience hypnosis. Yeah. She said, "Are you going to hypnotize me?" Right. And so what you're seeing, even though it's a teaching and educational video series, it is actually real. And so Sheila has decided that we're going to focus on anxiety as the presenting problem or issue. And as I said in a previous video, I know that my 2 o'clock appointment is coming in. So I greet my client at the door when they come in, shake their hand, and invite them to sit in a chair over by the table or the desk. Not in the recliners, not in the same area where I do hypnosis. And the reason why is because this is a real non-threatening environment. It's a small table. It's very business-like, and I think it offers a professional contextualization. Now, this is really important because a lot of clients have only heard the myths about hypnosis. Maybe they've even read in the newspaper about somebody who used hypnosis for nefarious purposes. And so they might have a little bit of on their guard up. And so this type of environment really reduces any stress or anxiety. So are you comfortable here at the little table?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Great. So we're going to go ahead and begin the process as if I've greeted her, as if she sat at the table. And this is how a pre-talk is conducted. A pre-talk involves the paperwork, it involves the assessment, and it involves simply getting to know the client and also offering to answer any questions that they might have about hypnosis. So Sheila, welcome. I'm really glad that you're here today. How is it that you heard about our services?
I heard through a mutual friend.
Oh, okay. Who was that?
It was Riley Bragg.
Oh, okay, great. Now, this is a fantastic answer, by the way, because if somebody comes to your office that was a referral from somebody who was in your office, the success is already set up here. So that's actually fantastic. I'm really glad that Riley told you about our services. Now, Stephanie let me know, of course, that you would be coming to the office today. What is it that we're going to be addressing?
Anxiety.
Okay. So you feel a sense of anxiety in what kind of situations?
High stress, panic situations.
Okay, so you have some panic?
It goes along with the anxiety.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a mother of a 3-year-old. I just work and basically stay home with her.
Okay. And I raise some kids myself, and so I know that can certainly produce a little bit of anxiety. How does the anxiety manifest? What happens when you experience anxiety?
It affects performance overall. What I do during the day.
Sure.
Even to the point of doing activities, whether I want to or not.
What kind of things do you like to do?
Like to go to the playground, like to go shopping,
Okay,
ice cream shops.
sure. Now, do you have any experience with hypnosis before? Have you?
I have never had
ever been
any at all.
hypnotized?
No.
Okay. Have you ever seen a stage hypnosis show at a comedy club?
I have not. I've heard of them though.
Okay. And you've never listened to a hypnosis MP3 or a CD or anything like that?
I have not.
Great. That's fantastic because I love working with people who are experiencing hypnosis for the first time. Hypnosis really is a state where you can access, I think, physical control. Anxiety sometimes manifests as physical symptoms, a sense of emotional control in life. And hypnosis as a resource state really gives you the ability essentially to kind of flip a switch and decide what state you're going to be in. Are you going to choose to continue to be anxious, or are you going to relax and calm down? And the great thing about hypnosis is it really is an opportunity for me to teach you some strategies.
Great.
Now, there's a book that mental health professionals use. It's called the DSM-5. And it's got a list of all the different psychiatric disorders that people experience in life. And one of them, interestingly enough, is panic attack, panic disorder. And if you look at the symptoms, they're all real physical. Things like shakiness or butterflies in the stomach, or the physical symptoms, maybe sweating.
Exactly.
Those kind of things. So you have some of those symptoms?
I do.
Okay. And what's interesting about that list of all the symptoms of panic is that most of them are physical. And hypnosis is a way for me to teach you to take sort of physical control over your body, to be able to handle anxiety in a new way.
So how does this really stop, my anxiety? How does it help?
A lot of people ask me, how can hypnosis, Richard, you're just going to talk to me, how can that actually help me to manage my anxiety? After all, those symptoms are real, aren't they?
Yes.
Let me give you a demonstration of what hypnosis is like, how we can actually use the power of the mind to control physical symptoms. Do you like to go to the movies?
Yeah, I do.
Have you ever had that lemon head candy? You know what I'm talking about? It's sweet on the outside, sugary on the outside, but on the inside that candy is like a sour lemon candy.
Yep.
Do you like that candy?
It's my favorite, actually.
Awesome, good. Go ahead and hold your hand out just like this. And imagine that I have some of those lemon head candies, and I'm going to put one in your hand right there, okay?
Okay.
Imagine it right there. In fact, I'll even give you an extra one. All right. Now, take your other hand, and I want you to take that imaginary candy, and I want you to pick it up and just pop it into your mouth. And when you do, close your eyes. So pick up that imaginary candy, pop it into your mouth, close your eyes, and let that sugary exterior of that candy begin to melt away. You can taste that sweet, delicious exterior of that confectionery sugar. And as it melts away, though, it gives, of course, way to the sour, tart lemon candy. Go ahead and chomp up that lemon candy, chomp, 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 that imaginary lemon head candy, and swallow that lemon head candy. And you can put your hand on it. I'm not going to give you any more imaginary candy. and perfect. Open the eyes. Now, what happened when you imagined that lemon head candy? Did you notice anything in your mouth?
You can actually taste it.
Okay,
just from
sure.
memories.
Now, think about this for a minute. Did you salivate at all when that lemon head candy was in your mouth?
A little bit.
Sure. Now, that's just really a great example because I didn't give you any real candy.
No.
In fact, I even called it imaginary candy.
Good.
But when I called it, imaginary candy, and you imagined that, you produced a real response. You really did salivate. You really did taste that confectionery sugar. Some people even tell me they can feel that candy or the weight of the candy in their hand. So that's how hypnosis works. We're going to use that creative part of the mind to create physical responses. In this case, to decrease any of the symptoms of anxiety. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
It does.
Now, let's talk a little bit about what's happened so far. I've just gotten an affirmative response. I asked that question with intention. It feels pretty good, doesn't it? Well, that's a yes. One of the things we're going to be talking about in a later video is yes sets. We're always looking for agreement. We want our client to give us positive affirmations about the experience we're guiding them through. And we can even ask leading questions. It feels pretty good, doesn't it? Is certainly a leading question in order to get those yes sets. In other words, the client is agreeing with me. This is the first stage in suggestibility. Now, I used a classic convincer there, the lemon drop convincer, and I did that with Alex earlier. It's actually my favorite convincer. In some of the successive or later videos, I'm actually going to share with you some other convincer techniques that might be utilized during the hypnotic pre-talk. I asked a little bit about the experience she was having, what some of the symptoms were, and I did, perhaps because of my background and experience, cast this in diagnostic terms. I do work, since I am a licensed mental health professional, with people who come to me for a variety of medical and mental conditions that licensed mental health professionals treat. But many people see a hypnotist for non-diagnostic reasons. In fact, the vast majority of people do. Most people who come to see me might have high stress levels. They're executives looking at managing their anxiety so that they can step into a state of peak performance. But it's not diagnostic, it's not pathological, it's not keeping them from being able to enjoy life. I see people all the time for smoking cessation, for weight loss, for academic performance, sports performance, to enhance intimacy, to deal with life more effectively on life's terms, to step into abundance or prosperity. There are really a zillion reasons why people come to see a hypnotist. So again, in this role play here, things are a little bit different than reality, but this is the basic process that I'm going through with the client. Now, I always want to make sure that my client is comfortable with me. I'm going to continue to ask perhaps some more questions about her. But again, I'm not looking for problems. What I'm looking for are simply the descriptors that she's given me. But I'm also about to give her some paperwork, because every office has paperwork, and this paperwork actually is really important. Now, this is the point where I actually get paid, and this is pretty cool. A lot of hypnotists say, but when do I ask for the money, right? And the money is important, because money is a way for a client to commit to a process. So what I do in my pre-talk is I literally make this a quid pro quo. I'm going to give her something, in this case paperwork, and she's going to give me something, payment. Now, this is also important, because when she's filling out the paperwork, I'm going to go get her a receipt for her payment. But that's only going to take me 1 minute. It's going to take her 10 minutes to fill out the paperwork, maybe even 12 minutes to fill out the paperwork. And so it's going to give me a good 9 or 10 or 11 minutes after I've met her and talked to her to really sort of strategize what's my direction, what induction am I going to use, what suggestions am I going to make, how am I going to really benefit the person who I'm working with. And so let's go back here to the pre-talk. Now, Sheila, do you have any questions for me about hypnosis, about that lemon drop, or really about anything about the process?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. In a little while, we're going to move over here. You can see the recliners over to I call it the Hypnotic Furniture. And this is where I'm simply explaining the process of hypnosis. And you're going to be wearing some headphones, and the headphones play relaxing music.
Okay.
And I'm going to be speaking to you through a microphone. That way you're going to hear me almost right in the middle of your head.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And the purpose of the session is to go through usually about 25 or 30 minutes of relaxation and teaching. I'm going to teach you during the hypnotic process specific strategies and skills for managing the anxiety and panic. And if at any time while we're going through this process you ever have any questions for me, you can always ask them, okay?
Great.
Fantastic. Now, just like any other office, there's always some paperwork. And so I have a couple forms that I need you to fill out. The first form is just called an intake form, and it asks some questions about you. And so if you would fill out the questions that are on there, it's only 3 pages long. And if anything doesn't apply, you can just skip it. Now, the other form is really important. It's called informed consent, and it gives me permission to work with you. And so I want you to read that form, and I want you to sign it, and also let me know how I can contact you, the best way to contact you, whether it's by phone or email or anything else. And then there's 2 other forms, and they're really short. The first is called an assessment of primary representational systems. There's 10 questions, and I just want you to put a check mark by the one that, by the answer for each question that is your most likely response. Okay? And what this does, it gives me an idea of your learning style. So, for example, do you primarily learn through visualization or through an auditory process, hearing things, or are you real kinesthetic? In other words, do you learn and experience the world really by feeling things, touching things? That's what kinesthetic means. And so the assessment here lets me know how you learn best. And the reason that's important in hypnosis is, as I'm going through the hypnosis session, I'm going to be using the same suggestions that kind of match your learning style.
All right.
Now, there's one more form here, and that's the strengths and resources inventory. It's just a checklist. I want you to put a check mark by anything that applies here. It's pretty self-explanatory. It'll probably take you about 10 minutes to fill out all these forms. Now, Stephanie told you that the fee today would be $55,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. And are you going to be using a cash, check, or a credit card for that?
Cash.
Cash. Okay, great. If you'll go ahead and give me the $55,000, I'm going to give you the paperwork. You fill out that paperwork, and I will go and get you a receipt.
Great.
Okay. So now she gives me $55,000 in cash, and I give her the paperwork, and I step out of the room. Okay. So now I really do want her to actually take some time and fill out this paperwork. So I'm going to cut right here, and we're going to come back as if I had gotten her receipt and stepped out of the room for about 10 minutes, and she had gone through the paperwork. So you can actually begin filling out that paperwork now. Just want to address a couple things before we sort of cut and let you finish the paperwork here. I've done a very short interview with her, again, abbreviated for this learning session, but I've covered the main things that are important. I've given her an opportunity to ask me questions. I've gotten positive affirmation from her. I've got consent to work with her. I've explained a little bit about the process. Now, one of the things I did not do is I did not cover with her all the myths of hypnosis, the fears and phobias that people might have about hypnosis. She came to my office, she made an appointment, she wants hypnosis. Unless a person has a specific objection or an area of concern, I never bring that up. I don't try to dismiss fears that a client doesn't have as an attempt to be preemptive and justify what I'm doing. Hypnosis and hypnotherapy is a self-selecting audience, if you will. Clients book an appointment because they've heard that we do good work, or they book an appointment because they're responding to an advertisement that's made them a promise. And they come to my office wanting what I have to offer. The other thing that's important to address is current media. While old films like perhaps Trilby and Svengali, movies like Office Space, where a person gets stuck in hypnosis forever, the old Dracula movies certainly have influenced cultural perceptions of hypnosis. A lot of people tell me they've seen a stage hypnotist before, and I let them know that I don't try to say, well, stage hypnosis isn't good. What I simply say to them is, well, this is a little bit different. I'm not going to have you up and acting out in funny ways. And I just let them know that that's really a game, as Simon says, rather than the teaching or instructional process that we're going to be going through here in the office. So I'll explain hypnosis a little bit if people have some questions about hypnosis. But I go through that process without bringing a lot of elements into it that the client hasn't brought to the element, assuming that they want what I have. So I'm going to let Sheila go ahead and complete the rest of the paperwork, and we'll come back here for part 2 of the pre-talk in just a moment. Well, now Sheila's completed the paperwork. I try to keep my paperwork short. It literally takes my clients about 10 or 12 minutes to do this. The intake form basically has some essential information, and really the most important thing on that intake form is, what are your 3 strengths? I want to predicate my session on what resources the client already brings to the table. I do want to know about medical conditions and medications. I don't need their complete medical history. I'm not going to be doing surgery or anesthesia with them, but I do want to know if they're currently taking any medications and what those medications are. If they are currently seeing a physician or another mental health professional, I need to make sure that they've informed that physician or mental health professional that they're also coming to my office for a hypnosis session. Some of the other things about the paperwork that are important, again, I am giving her a receipt now for $55,000 in cash. I don't really charge $55,000 per session. That would be awesome if I did, but I don't. Let me talk, the reason I picked that crazy high number is, what should your rate be? You know, what you should charge is really geographically dependent. As I've said, if you're in New York City and Manhattan, charge $1,000 a session. If you're in Beverly Hills, charge $800 a session. If you're in Los Angeles, charge $500 a session. The cost of living is pretty high out there in California. If you're in Denver or Dallas, charge $450 a session or $400 a session. If you're in Kansas City, Missouri, charge $250 a session. If you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, charge $200 a session. If you're in Binkelman, Nebraska, charge $50 a session. So, how much you should charge is not universal. It really is geographically dependent. The house that I'm in right now is a really nice 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 3,000 square foot house. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, this is a $200,000 house. In California, this would be a $2.5 million house. In rural Nebraska, this would be a $120,000 house. So how much you should charge is really probably a function of your geography more than it really is anything else. So now I've given her a receipt, and I'm going to look at these forms quickly. And the first thing I'm going to look at is the assessment of her primary representational systems. And I'm going to talk to her a little bit about that a little bit about it with her before we actually begin. Well, this is great. What this shows me here, Sheila, is that you're really good at visualization and you're really good at processing instructions, learning things. You got a 4 for visual and a 4 for auditory. That's really great because hypnosis is a learning process. And this means that I can teach you hypnosis in a couple of different ways, using that creative part of the mind, like holding out that lemon drop candy, but I can also give you steps to take to manage the anxiety that you're going to be able to take with you from this session.
Great.
Notice, I haven't done the hypnosis session yet, but I've already given her the first post-hypnotic suggestion, that she's going to have an easy time learning, and she's going to take this and she's going to take it from the session into a real world. So let me ask you a question. How do you feel about having that ability?
I feel great.
Yeah.
Excited.
So we haven't even done the session yet, and she's already excited. And by the way, this is the kinesthetic area. Most people get the lowest score here. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of engineers score really high in this area.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's just an engineer joke. In other words, I don't want her to feel because she got a low score in one area that she's not good at something. If a client has a low score in one area, it simply means that I need to teach them to develop their acuity in that area. But in one of our later videos, I'm going to come back and talk specifically about using the non-yard assessment of primary representational systems. Now, you've completed the informed consent form here. That's great. And you said that contacting you via email is okay. Mm-hmm. So awesome. And then I'm going to look at the intake form, and I'm going to look at it real quickly, whether it's a client who I'm role-playing with like Sheila or whether it's an actual client. I don't want to get lost in the details. She's told me a lot of things about her already that I can work with. She's told me she's very auditory and that she is very visual. She's told me that she's hopeful and excited. She's told me that she has the stress of managing day-to-day activities, especially since she is a 3-year-old son or daughter? Daughter, okay. And so now I'm looking at the intake form, and the two things on here are stress management and overcoming fears. That goes along the lines of panic. Experience with hypnosis, none. And the intake form asks this question: what are your beliefs about hypnosis? As she's checked, I think it can help me. I want to reinforce that, but if, I'm really glad to see that you know that hypnosis can help you. I've turned it from an I think into an I know. If she said she was a skeptic or she was going to try it and see what happens, then I would try to get buy-in. There's no health issues here. And she has checked that she's a smoker. Now, she's not here for smoking cessation, so I'm not going to turn this into a smoking cessation session. But I see that you smoke. And, hypnosis is really a great tool. A lot of people come to see me for smoking cessation.
Oh, do they?
Yes, they do. And the reason why is because hypnosis is a great tool for helping a person manage stress. And so you're going to find that by managing your stress and decreasing your panic, see, most people say, oh, I'm stressed out, I need to go take a smoke break. You're going to find that you're going to cut down your cigarette use just by the things I teach you today.
Perfect. That's exciting.
Now see, I've given her another suggestion. I've told her what's going to happen. And because I'm an authority, she's going to take action on that. So I'm not turning this into a no smoking session, but I'm going to frame that in a positive way. Now she's also checked here that she has difficulty sleeping. See that you say you have trouble falling asleep.
Yes.
What happens when you go to sleep? Your head hits the pillow
And my mind just races.
your mind just races, right? You know, hypnosis is one of those strategies that can help you to really be in the moment, just to enjoy those feathers under your head and to relax into the moment. You know, hypnos is actually the Greek word for sleep. There's a winged Greek god, god Hypnos, and that's where the word hypnosis comes from. So yeah, so by coming here today, you're also going to learn some strategies that are going to help you get some better sleep as well.
Yes.
Sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Very good. So again, I've given another suggestion and I've asked for affirmation. Mostly satisfied in relationships. Now, you said here when you handle stress or tension, you usually just think it through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's an auditory process. Hearing conversations in your own mind that you kind of self-talk might be having with yourself.
Yes.
And hypnosis is a little bit like that. You've come here today and you've asked me to make some specific suggestions to you. So really, the suggestions that I'm going to make during our session aren't coming from me. They're actually coming from you. And so that's pretty cool. Now, what do you do for fun? You wrote drink. A lot of people like to drink. It's pretty popular, which is why I used to own a bar and grill at one point in life.
Yep.
I've done that actually a couple times. Now, drinking is kind of interesting. I'm not going to go into an assessment of alcoholism or anything like that. The reason why is she hasn't presented with that. And normal people drink alcohol. And so I'm just going to take it at face value. Kind of a flippant response, but definitely a very popular response. So I'm going to use it to my advantage. So in my pre-talk, I would probably say this. You know, alcohol chemically is actually a sedative hypnotic. That's the class of drugs it's in, because alcohol slows down the mind both physically and mentally, and it literally hypnotizes us.
Wow.
So what you'll find is that when we go through the process here, you're not going to feel like you're drunk. Then we'd be doing a stage hypnosis show, but you're going to find that that it's really easy for you to relax into this state. And then she checked that her hobby was her kid, which makes a lot of sense because that's what parents of a 3-year-old do as a hobby.
Yes.
And so my question now that I've covered all this material in the pre-talk, is again, to get affirmation and buy-in for the process. But do you have any questions at this point? Anything that you would like to ask?
I think you've covered it all.
Okay, great. Then let's move over here to the hypnotic furniture, and let's actually go through the formal process of hypnosis.
Let's do it.
Bam. And so now we are going to move over to the recliners, the hypnotic furniture, as I call it. But again, I have the affirmation. So this is an abbreviated process, a demonstration process, but we've covered all the core elements of the pre-talk here in this video.